overall, I thought it was, I thought there were some encouraging signs for some Democrats. I think there's still a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot of get out the vote that needs to happen between now and November to motivate some of that nearly 80% who didn't go to the polls. And those are registered voters, by the way, registered voters who didn't go to the polls. We got to get them out and turn them around.
That's very scary. That's very scary.
Yeah. Alrighty, welcome in. It is your favorite political podcast. It is Alabama Politics This Week with Josh Moon and
David Person.
How are you, Dave?
I'm good, man. It's a sunny Wednesday. We record on Wednesdays usually. Sunny Wednesday. I think this is your kind of weather day because it looks like it's going to be, warming up. So it's a good day, man. It's a good day.
Yeah, it's going to rain. It's going to start a little rainy pattern coming up here for the next several days. I don't enjoy that. I like the droughts. I'm a big pro drought guy. And so big pro drought. I do. I do love the heat. I've gotten in several over the last week or so. I've gotten in several nice 90-degree mid-afternoon runs. Man, it's so great. I got one in yesterday, man. It was a good one. Humidity was off the charts. It was a good run. It was a good one.
It's hilarious to me because the days that you are chomping at the bit to get out and run are the days that I'm like, now I'm just going to get on my exercise bike and that's what I do on those days.
I know. I got. Listen, as I start to head out in the afternoons, there's my neighbor across the street. He's a retired police officer, older black gentleman, and he and his wife, and then sometimes there's another guy that lives down the street. They come and they sit on the front porch down there, and so when I start out, he always yells at me and says, "Hey man, don't you die on me today." And then sometimes I get a hey, toss an extra block in there for me. Toss an extra block in there for me when you go. So it's really, I appreciate the encouragement. He's super nice, super nice guy. Hey, before we get into the primaries and everything that happened, this week in politics, I need to tell you about our friends at Wind Creek Entertainment who helped this thing go along. It is Alabama Politics This Week, brought to you by Wind Creek Entertainment, and we really appreciate them for what they do here and for what they do for everybody around the state. The Porch Creeks are some fine people. We really enjoy working with them. They operate 3 fantastic casino resorts in this state. They are in Montgomery, Wetumpka, and Atmore. Wetumpka and Atmore, of course, being the 2 biggies. And I'm just going to say it again. If you head down to the beach, going on vacation, this is the time. School's about to be out for everybody. You're planning those beach vacations. Break up the trip. Break it up. You headed down, headed from North Alabama, stop in Wetumpka. Stay. Have a nice time. Have a nice extra day or 2 there, on the way back. Make everybody feel a little bit better. On Birmingham and South, stop in Atmore. You'll be an hour. You'll be an hour from the beach at that point. So as you get up in the morning, you have a great breakfast there at one of their great restaurants inside the resort in Atmore, which, as David will tell you, really fantastic food in those places.
Fire's great.
That's right.
Great.
Fantastic place.
Service was great too.
Yeah. Yep. Get up, go ahead. You're at the beach early. Maybe even stop by the outlets. Make the wife extremely happy. Everybody's happy.
Right.
So, just go and stay. Look them up online at Wind Creek Entertainment. You will not be disappointed in the stay there. All right. So, I guess we start at the top of the ticket, work our way down, right?
Sure. Yeah.
No surprise at all in the governor's race. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. Were you surprised with the outcomes of the?
No, I wasn't surprised. I guess the only thing that really surprised me was on the Democratic side, just the extent to which it was decisive. I did not expect. I knew that there was a strong likelihood that Doug Jones would win, just simply because of the, he had some built-in factors, that leaned in his favor. Obviously, a lot of name recognition as a former U.S. Senator. You know, obviously, a real fundraising advantage when you look at the gap between the fundraising that he was able to accomplish versus what the rest of the field was able to accomplish. But even still, I thought there would be less of a gap because I know Will Boyd, the candidate that I supported and believed, you know, worked very hard to try to win. Will was kind of everywhere, and I didn't see Doug everywhere, and I also noticed that I didn't see a whole lot of Doug Jones advertising. You know, the lawn signs and that stuff. So I thought, well, maybe that's an indication that you know maybe Will has a chance to at least get him into a runoff. So, you know, congratulations to Doug. He had a decisive victory. Now, I will say this. One thing that really, really concerns me when I started looking at the numbers was that when you looked at the turnout, first of all, let's talk a little bit about the voter turnout. And this affects obviously not only the gubernatorial races, but all the races. The voter turnout for the state was 23%. That is enormously troubling. As somebody who wants to see this state flip from red to at least purple, if not blue, that's very troubling. Another thing that concerns me is when I look at the turnout on the Democratic side versus the Republican side at the gubernatorial level. So Tuberville was able to get 85% of the vote of those Republicans who voted. Admittedly, again, turnout was low for everybody, but he was able to get 85% of that. Doug was only able to get 79%. So I'm looking at those two. I'm juxtaposing that. I'm juxtaposing the actual number of voters, and the gap is significant, which again concerns me when we start looking at November, because based on the numbers that I'm looking at, unless there is a tremendous shift in the level of turnout on the Democratic side, and from what I could tell, and I didn't write these numbers down, but from what I could tell, the Democratic turnout was a little bit. There was an increase between the Democratic turnout in 2022 and 2026 versus, I think, a decrease for the Republicans between 2022 and 2026. What we need on the Democratic side is for a lot more Democrats to turn out and to vote for Doug in November. And I'm really wondering, how is that going to happen? And is that going to be able to happen at a level where we can see Doug up his numbers to a much more competitive degree? So I've got those concerns, starting with the top of the ticket. And obviously, I think it just gets more challenging, perhaps, for Democrats moving down the ticket. One possible exception may be, perhaps, and you tell me what you think, with the lieutenant governor's position, because Ensler is a really strong candidate. He may have the ability one-on-one to compete a lot more effectively against whoever the Republican is. But anyway, I don't know. That's my take on it. What are your thoughts?
Numbers wise, I think I think there were first of all, there's some good signs for the Democrats in exactly what you said. I want to say somewhere around 43% of the total ballots cast in this election, in this primary, were Democratic ballots. Which is a significant uptick from where we were 4 years ago at the previous midterms. So that's a good indication that there are more Democrats voting. They have a higher share number of those ballots. There were also, like you said, there was a decline in the total number of Republican ballots as well. There's a 25% decline. But I think there was also a couple of things in there that also made those numbers a little more encouraging, were the fact that there were a lot of highly contested Republican races, high profile races on the Republican side that we did not have on the Democratic side. We just didn't have them. We didn't have, we didn't have a lieutenant governor's primary. We didn't have an AG's primary. We didn't have the U.S. Senate seat primary. We had one, but it wasn't as high profile as the Republican side.
Right.
And then on down the list, there were a lot of key races kind of scattered around the state in key areas that I think drove some of the Republican turnout as well. So those things are all helpful. Now, look, let's be clear. We knew coming into this that whoever was going to end up on the Democratic side was going to face a steep uphill climb, and because there are more Republican voters typically in this state than there are Democratic voters. That's just the reality of it. Okay, and so to overcome it, you've got to have a climate in which you can be successful. You've got to have the right candidates in place to lure those independents and moderates over to your side. You probably need a somewhat flawed candidate on the Republican side to turn people off, and you need some things to break your wake. And I think that we have those things in place. All right. And if things continue to trend, as I wrote in the little overview of the governor's race that's coming up today, I think if things continue to trend as they currently are in terms of the national climate, the Iran war, the prices remaining high, the president continuing to act like a lunatic and turn people off, creating slush funds for his friends, and an IRS situation that's the most incredibly insane thing I've ever seen in my life. It's just
outright thievery. Yes,
right.
Thievery. Yeah.
Listen, he promised to be transparent. I don't think we thought that he would be transparent with corruption.
Right.
But
Right.
So yeah, I think and Tuberville has so tied himself to this guy that he could sink or swim related to whatever happens with Trump at the level of approval ratings and whatnot. So all that's in place. Then you also have the residency issue as well, and what that's going to lead to, whether or not it leads to. Listen, I honestly think it's. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of booting him off the ballot or anything, but at the same time, let's say, we get into this and he has to go through discovery and he puts these tax returns out there and there's only 4 of them. And it becomes very obvious very quickly to everybody that dude don't meet the requirements. That he's violating the law. I think that turns a lot of people off as well. So listen, there's a lot of things that can happen going forward. Is all of it hopeful? Of course it is. Of course it is, because we want the best person, and so we're hopeful that the best person and not this, Muslim hating, crazy person who doesn't really want to work is going to end up in the job. So yeah, all of this is a hopeful outlook on things. Of course. I will say, look, I took a lot of shit from some folks when I told Will Boyd to get out of this race, and said, look, there's a better pathway for you. You could better serve the state. You could better do this thing over here. And I'm not going to come around here and say, look, I was right. I told you, because I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed because I think Will is a good candidate. I think he is somebody who the state could use. I think he has good ideas. But he's got to quit what he's doing. He's got to quit what he's doing, showing up every election cycle, running for a major office and getting 10% of the vote. And
let's be fair. Now,
okay.
he won the Democratic nomination several times. So let's be fair about this. He garnered way more than 10% of the vote in previous elections on the Democratic side. Now, I understand what you're saying in terms of what happened. I think in this particular case, it absolutely was a landslide for Doug Jones. There's no question about that. But I also think, there are reasons.
Well, I mean, the last time he faced Doug, he faced Doug, it was the same thing. And in the last, he got a couple of nominations.
You're talking about.
Yes.
Well, yes. Yeah, but I'm also saying, I mean, you can't discount what what he has achieved and just focus only on what, where he fell short. Yes, he fell short sometimes, but, so did Doug. Doug fell short as well. And, let's
Well,
be honest, the only reason that Doug won the Senate seat, as I've said repeatedly, the only reason he won was because Richard Shelby gave him a tremendous opening, by telling Republicans not to vote for Roy Moore. And in fact, even running against Roy Moore was a blessing for Doug. And then secondly, black women turned out in huge numbers during that election cycle. So, there are caveats, and there are, things that, we can point to, I think, in various elections to say why something happened or why something didn't.
Right. Look, what I'm saying is this: Doug is running in Philip Ensler and Ron Sparks, and some of those guys, and then on the Republican side, Wall and Wes Allen and Catherine Robertson, and those folks are running a real campaign. All right. And what I mean by that is it's more than simply saying, I've got good ideas and getting in a car and driving around. And I think that, listen, I appreciate the work ethic. I appreciate the getting in the car and driving around sort of thing, but there's also things that have to be done kind of behind the scenes at times, and that speak to fundraising, that speak to coalition building, that speak to having the folks who are out there, doing the phone banking things for you, that folks who are going out and raising money for you, people who are working behind the scenes on legal aspects of stuff. All of those things don't just happen, at this time, at election time. And I think that's where Will Boyd has fallen short. He's not built a coalition, and I think he was given an opportunity to do that, and he turned it down. And I think, and listen, that's up to him. He can do however he wants to do.
To build a coalition, he was given an opportunity to build a coalition as a candidate for governor.
No, not as a candidate for governor. No, not as a candidate for governor.
Okay, so
he was given an opportunity to be part of the team.
Let's be clear about what we're let's be clear about what we're saying, because he was not given an opportunity, or he did not when you're talking about building a coalition, it wasn't as a gubernatorial candidate. No. It was basically get out of the race and do something else that we'd rather see you do.
Get out of the race and run for public service commission.
And of course, a candidate can make that argument. Doug Jones could make that argument, but Will Boyd also had the right to make the argument that I want to stay in the race and run for governor.
All I'm saying
I'm just saying, let's be clear about it. Let's be clear.
I'm just saying he's sitting at the House now. And he's going to be for the next however long. And right now,
but he's not the only one.
I
mean, let's think about. You're focusing a lot on Will. You got 5 candidates who'll be sitting at the House, not just Will.
Oh yeah. No, listen. I mean, come on. Come on. You know what I'm saying? There were 2 serious candidates in the race. I mean, and also, by the way, the Chad Chig Martin people, shut up. Okay. All of that noise. I mean, 1%. I told you it was 1%, and you sent me hate mail for months. Okay. Talking about this movement of of the Chig Martin group. Okay. I mean, stop it. Okay. So, but all I'm saying is there were 2 serious candidates in this thing, and one of them was Will Boyd. And right now he could be the nominee for Public Service Commission and would probably have a really good shot to earn that seat right now, and build upon that. And in 4 years would be able to run for another office with that coalition of people behind him, with the money people behind him. And he could get out of this perpetual cycle of what he's been doing. And that's,
I'm not disagreeing with the fact that that's a track he could have taken. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is, ultimately, it's his right to run for whatever office he wants to run for. Of course it is. No,
I'm not saying that at all. I'm just commenting on what he should have done.
And I'm saying it's his choice. He's got to make that choice. So,
Yeah.
The bottom line is, and just like all the candidates have to, and I'm going to push back on something else you said.
Okay.
You said there were only 2 serious candidates. I
Yes.
think that everybody running for the governor's, for that governor's seat on the Democratic side was serious, except for one. Jamel Brown, I don't think was serious.
I mean,
Yolanda
I'm
Flowers.
not talking about I'm not talking about like serious people. Okay. I'm talking about a serious chance of winning, a serious chance of being taken serious by voters who might consider them against the Republican. All right. Nobody's considering Yolanda Flowers seriously. I mean, she got beat 80-20 by it was the worst loss in the history of the state. I mean, the pickle man. I mean, come on, you know what I'm saying? And then Chad Chick Martin, we saw what happened.
Yeah.
So nobody took him seriously, and
if you, I think what you're talking about is viability, and we can have that debate.
I mean, nobody. I mean, but and I guess maybe we could say
at least that's a distinction I think that makes a lot more sense to say. They were less viable. I don't want to disparage them by saying they weren't serious, because I listened to Yolanda Flowers and Chick Martin, and I think they were serious. Yeah. Jamel Brown, not at all. Jamel Brown, not at all.
Not at all. All right. So then elsewhere around the state, there were a couple of surprises. Bye to Steve Marshall.
Yeah.
All that pandering, those years of pandering.
So with him now, I will admit I was kind of laser focused on the gubernatorial race. I paid less attention to those races. These other races. Now, Steve Marshall, he ran against somebody who was Trump endorsed, right? Steve Marshall was not Trump endorsed.
Barry Moore. It was for the U.S. Senate seat, so it was in that U.S. Senate race, and so Barry Moore was up there. Then right. So
was that really a surprise to you?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think, Steve. No, I mean, I don't think it was a surprise to me, because I saw some of the polling, and so I knew Marshall was in trouble. Okay. And so him losing to Barry Moore was certainly no surprise. Yeah. I knew he was going to lose to Barry Moore. Him losing to Jared Hudson, however, was a bit of a surprise.
I see what you're saying.
I mean, and if you've ever watched the Jared Hudson commercials, I mean, he's a former Navy SEAL and a military guy and all this, and he never says anything. It's the most Trump-like shit I've ever seen in my life, where he's just like, you know what we should do about all the problems? We should solve the problems. That's what we should do. I mean, it's just I mean, I tell people the other day, there's one commercial or ad that he had. It popped up on my Facebook feed one day, and it looked, listen, it was a great, like, homemade kind of ad deal. Because, it kind of got you in before you really realized you were watching a political ad. And he's working on his truck. He's changing the battery out on his truck, and he's got his phone set up so he's filming himself do this. And he's like, when I first started buying these batteries for this truck, they cost X. And he's like, I changed these out myself. And I mean, it's a freaking battery. He's talking like you're Mr. Goodrich, for God's sakes. What the fuck are you talking about? I mean, just shut up. And then he's like, when I first started, they were $17, and now they're $247. When I get into the Senate, I'm going to lower the prices on these, for average working people. And it was all stuff like this. Never an explanation about how he was going to do anything. It was just always, I'm going to do this. I'm going to, we're going to take this thing back and solve the problems.
But I would argue that based on the Tuberville model and the Trump model, with the voters that they're trying to reach, with the demographic they're trying to reach, apparently that works.
No. Because,
listen, Trump is more popular in this state, it appears, than ever.
Yeah. Listen, you catch a lot of stupid people with stupid promises. Okay. And so, and they have mastered that ability. Yeah, I was disappointed. I'll say this: I was disappointed in the AG's race, where Katherine Robertson and Jay Mitchell are going to go into a runoff. So we get 6 more weeks of that dumb shit.
Yeah.
And Jay Mitchell and his stupid commercials. Can't wait to see who. I don't know who else he's got left to offend at this point. But honestly, I never thought I'd say this, but I hope Katherine Robertson beats him like a rented mule. And
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with you based on the commercials. I mean, he presents a real kind of, I would even argue, reprehensive kind of political personality.
Awful. Yeah.
Let me ask you though about. Can I ask you about Mo Brooks and James Lomax?
Yeah.
I mean, did you? Now I know James Lomax was endorsed by Trump and Mo Brooks wasn't, but Mo Brooks does have, I think, pretty high name recognition and should have probably been a lot more competitive. I mean, don't you think?
Yeah, I thought honestly there was a lot of rumors that Mo was leading in that race for a long time. But you're right, because I think the name recognition got a lot of people, and it fooled a lot of people into thinking that he was getting more votes than he was. But I think Lomax is in that district. Lomax is a better choice. I mean, and I was always confusing to me why anyone over there would have chosen Mo Brooks. I mean, it's a Huntsville district. It's it's not exactly some deep red state. It's not like we're in the Wiregrass talking about things here, And so, I just always thought that Lomax was going to have a pretty decent shot at that thing. And, of course, leadership was on his side. The base of the Republican Party, in the legislature, in the House, were behind him. We got a lot of support from Ledbetter and from I think Mac McCutcheon, the former House Speaker, come out and endorsed him as well. And so he was he got a lot of backing over there. And plus you had Mo Brooks, who was criticizing Trump left and right, and so you had kind of a double whammy of Mo being crazy and turning off the moderates, and Mo criticizing Trump. And so I didn't really understand what pathway he ever had to winning. And but like I said, the polling was showing that he was having Lomax was having trouble. So they put a lot of money and effort into that race to keep Brooks out, because they were really worried that Mo Brooks was going to come in and create something akin to the Freedom Caucus in the Alabama legislature and split the Republican Party, which I got to be honest, I was kind of rooting for. Because because listen, any split of the Republican Party gives Democrats more power. Because at that point the Democrats then enter the chat, as the kids say, and they get whoever is working on this or that is and they need help. Well, they start turning to Democrats for that help. But listen, overall, I thought it was, I thought there were some encouraging signs for some Democrats. I think there's still a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot of get out the vote that needs to happen between now and November to motivate some of that nearly 80% who didn't go to the polls. And those are registered voters, by the way, registered voters who didn't go to the polls. We got to get them out and turn them around.
That's very scary. That's very scary.
Yeah. Yeah, so we got to do this. All right, we're gonna get out. We're gonna come back with some of our friends from SPLC and talk about things that happened recently with the protests. All roads lead to the South protest that happened over redistricting and the fight that's going on and where things are going to lead in the future. All right, we'll slide out. It's Alabama Politics This Week, brought to you by Wind Creek Entertainment. We're back in a minute.